Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Welcome back to Estancia Lapacho, and today we're going to carry on stacking up our straw. You can see that I have got the Stara ST Max 180 working away with the cultivator over there on that field, as we've now cleared all these bales out the way. I'm just going to grab those two bales there just in case they present a problem to it anytime in the near future, and then we're not going to need to worry about it. We've got the sower, rather I should say, the drill is working away planting beans still, and we are gathering bales. So the plan is that we are going to stack these bales up into this field, and then once we've done that, we're going to go and get our truck, and we're going to we're going to bring the truck over with the trailer, and we're going to load the bales onto the trailer, and we're going to take them off to the animal dealership, where we found out yesterday that we can sell them. So earlier this week, we had an absolute disaster. Our cows escaped, damaged the machinery, and they also ran rampant across the sugarcane field, which was a real shame because the other half of the field over there absolutely decimated the crop. Is completely useless. So what we've had to do is we've had to cultivate it all back in. We've had no choice in the matter. It had to be done. And we've still got half the field, which is good, but we've also now got half the field which is lying fallow with nothing to do. So what do you want me to do with the field? Do you want me to replant it immediately and then let it catch up with the crop that we've got on this side? Or do you think I should leave it until after we have harvested this half of the field, and then we can do something with the field as a whole? It is your vote. It's your game. Head into the comment section down below. Let us know which one you want and why. And of course, don't forget to actually cast your vote in the top right-hand corner. Now, if we just grab a couple more bales here, there is one load done. I estimate another 2.5 stacks out of this field. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to put this one down this end. I'm not going to put them all down this end. Obviously, I've got one stack up there. We'll just sort of start working our way up and down the field so that we keep the bales in a reasonably straight line, because in real life, you would have to present the bales straight on to the stacker. You wouldn't be able to just hit them sideways and have them go up the infeed. It wouldn't work very well. I mean, you don't have to get them as accurate as you'd think in order to get them to go on to the infeed trailer, trolley type thing, but you do need to kind of get them reasonably straight. They do have to be reasonably straight. They will straighten themselves a little bit if you get them at an angle, but generally speaking, the straighter the better. So if we move up and down the field, we're going to basically be doing this in a far more realistic fashion than if we go side to side on the field and we keep missing it. And it's also a lot faster. You can actually go at the bale at a reasonable speed. You don't want to be going flat out, so probably we are going a little bit too fast, but I'd say about that speed is all right. You can sort of hit it at a reasonable pace. I mean, obviously, the faster that you hit it, the more damage it's going to do to the actual machine. It does put quite a bit of pressure on it when you make contact with the bale first, and you do have that thing. It's got a chain on it that's spinning around. I'm actually just going to leap out at the tractor a second, and I'm going to take a closer look. You can see it right there. You can see that chain. That chain has actually got small teeth on it that will grab the bale and they will take them up. Now that chain does move at a reasonable speed, so you can hit the bale at a fair pace and it will immediately pick it up and put it onto the trolley. However, you got to remember that everything is steady. Is being held by these bars here, so you don't want to go too fast because there's a lot of pressure being put onto it. Those bales are heavy. Bales are very, very heavy, and if you do drive into them at speed with something sticking out the side of your machine like that, it's going to do it some damage, no matter how slow you are. So going at it at full tilt is definitely an unrealistic thing to do. So really, when you approach the bale, you want to be slowing down like this and allowing it to make contact and load up onto it. You can present the bale at kind of this angle. That was probably a little bit too steep. You've got to sort of move over a little bit just to sort of allow it. Although the wide tyres on the tractor do make it a little bit more difficult. I've known artisans with a slight extension. Well, actually, I don't know if it was actually a factory machine or if it was modified by the person that owned it. It was one of the first people in the UK to have one of these trailers. Now, there's a lot more of them in the UK now, but this was going back... actually, I'm not sure how far back I'm going now. I'm going back a good 15 years plus. It was actually closer to 20 years that I'm going back. I was one of the first people in the UK to have one of these trailers, and We weren't quite so concerned back then with ground compaction issues. It's become more of an issue since then, partly because of the rise of direct drilling. Direct drilling wasn't done quite so much. Most land was ploughed fully back when this one was first being used, so the tractors wouldn't have had the wide tyres on them, which then you wouldn't have had so much issue with. But I do seem to remember the intake bit stuck out a little bit further, and I didn't see it up close working very often. I only seen it like 2 or 3 times at most. I went to the field after it was been and gone. But I do seem to remember it stuck out further than this, so I don't know if this is just for the sake of the game, just to make it a little bit easier, or if it's how these models are actually done now. I'm not really sure. I mean, I would guess that it would work really well with a push bar on the front of the tractor that would nudge the bale out and feed it round to the side of the tractor to line it up a lot better with that infeed belt. So whether that's something has changed, or whether it was like just a one-off for that particular Artisan stacker that I seen working, I'm not really sure. That'll sort of remain to be seen. I turned too sharp then. You've seen the tractor lift itself up into the air as it went round. We've just got to wait now for that one to come all the way back up, and then we can carry on again. Right then, tally-ho, up across the field. I said 2.5, didn't I? I think I said 2.5 after the one that I tipped down in. I'm not sure. You'd have to go back and tell me if I said 2.5 after that one, or 2.5 in total. But I think either way I was wrong. I think there's going to be several more. I'm not sure how many bales we've got on this field, but we do seem to have quite a lot. So it's going to take us a little while to finish everything in here. So we come whizzing up around now. I'm going to leave that bale there. I'm just going to grab this one. I'm not going to worry too much about going for realism on the speed now, because we have addressed that. We've sort of said how it's done and how it should be done, but obviously we don't want to be spending all day just picking up bales. There are other things that we want to do, like selling bales to make piles and piles of money. Now, this week, I am just going to use the auto-load trailer. I'm going to bring it out here, auto-load the bales straight onto the trailer, take them over to the sell point, and auto-unload them straight into the sell point. I'm not going to mess around with using the loader to do it, to go for any realism on that particular count today. We'll just say that an employee over there is unloading the trailers for us, and so we don't need to worry about it. I will do some in a future episode, but because I've done so much fairly recently in the Gorilla series, I don't think we need to be doing lots and lots of bale handling just yet. Don't worry, we will get to it. So for those of you who like the bale handling, there will be some later on in the series. It's just that I know there's just as many of you who don't particularly care for watching lots of bale handling. We're doing it the easy way this time, and then we can worry about the other. I thought I had 16 on. Just go and grab one more, and then we can tip this one out. It doesn't actually matter if you leave them in stacks all over the field, or if you bring them back and make a central stack sort of in 1 or 2 locations. Usually we would make a central stack just because we had quite a lot of lorries moving in and out. But equally, some years we had a vehicle like, it's kind of like this. Well, no, actually it was nothing like this whatsoever, because it didn't pick them up themselves. I would build towers. I would build 14 bale towers all over the fields. You would put 4. You pick up 4 bales, and then you pick up another 4 bales. Well, actually, you pick up 3 bales and plonk them on top of another one to minimize the handling as much as possible. You pick them up and put them on top of another one, and you leave that one there. Then you go and gather 4 more bales, and you bring that one up, and you press it right up against the first 4 bales. And then when you've done that, you then go racing off and you grab 3, and you put them up on top of the 2 stacks of 4, the opposite direction. And then you go finally and you get another 3 and you put them up on the other side, and then that finishes your stack. And you got 14 bales stacked up in the field. You do that across the entire field. Now, when you're faced with 100, 120 acre field covered with hundreds and hundreds of bales, that is a fairly soul-destroying and thankless task. Trust me on this. I know. I speak from bitter experience. It takes a very, very long time. You just go in there on your own, thousands of bales everywhere, and yeah, that's about it. That's all you got. Just you and thousands of bales. And away you go. So you start stacking all of these bales up, and you leave these towers of 14 everywhere. Then we had a small lorry that had been modified. It wasn't articulated or anything, it's just a small lorry, and on the bed on the back it had a framework that would lift up. The whole back end of the lorry would tip up, and big gates would open and big squeezers at the bottom, they would open as well, and you'd back right up to the stack of 14 bales, so that the 8 bales on the bottom were aligned with the lorry. You went in the direction of the lorry for those on the bottom. It had a central steel sort of strut that went up through the middle. That one would go between the 2 stacks of 4, and then you had the big squeezers on the outside that would go either side of the stacks of 4, and then these great big gates that would come, and they would sort of squeeze in, and they would hold on to all of the rest of them. Everything would squish in together nice and tight, and so then it would be able to pick up those bales. All 14 bales, it would pick them up, and it would come back down, and it would sit horizontal on the back of the lorry. So it would kind of sit on it like this, except that the bottom 4 bales would be facing the 90-degree turn on the back of that, so it would be facing, they would be facing straight up from where we are now, and then the ones on the top, they would be facing in this direction. But it didn't pick them up like this one at a time. They had to be built into stacks, and then you took it from the stacks. Those stacks would then be ferried off the field to a main central location where we would stack all of the straw for the winter, and then throughout the winter and the early spring we would be collecting the straw from there with lorries. Well, I wouldn't be involved in that bit. It would be collected from there, and it would be loaded onto lorries, and it would be shipped around the country. And that was how we dealt with our straw. We did that for several years, and I drove the telehandler for several years, every summer. That was what I did. I drove the telehandler, and I built these stacks of 14. So I'm going to try in a future episode to make a stack of 14 to sort of reminisce about my late teenage years and all those thousands of hours that I spent stacking these bales in the fields. Wasn't a lot of fun. There isn't a mod in the game that currently represents the type of stacker that we used. However, I do know that people who do small bales, some of them still use them, and there used to be more of them around. You would take flat 8s. Bales would be baled into flat 8 sledges. Now, that's something that's quite common in the UK, but I understand it's not quite so common elsewhere in the world. You tend to use bigger sledges rather than 8s. It tends to be a larger size, whatever, 12s, 18s, whatever it might be, the packs. But we would have flat 8s, and you take a flat 8, you take a flat 8 grab, and you go and you, with your flat 8 grab, I'm just going to go through, and we're going to see the one up here. He's got enough seed to finish this field by the look of it. That's good. We'll let that one finish the field. So yes, you would take your flat 8, and you would take your, let me just put that spout down so we can go and take this one back down to the farm. You take 8 bales, you pick up the flat 8, and you put it horizontally across another flat 8. So you don't put them directly in line so the bales are not stacked directly one on top of the other. It's 90-degree turn, so they're crossing over each other and tying in. And you stack these up, and you stack up, I think it was 8, even 10 stacks of flat 8s while they're out in the field. And then you go along with a trailer that goes on the back of a tractor, and that trailer works in exactly the same way as the stacker truck that we used to have. That was essentially, it looked a bit like this. It wasn't very big, but it was big enough to take 7 quadrant bales on the back, sort of in a line. Well, it was actually 14, but obviously 2x2. So, yeah, these small trailers that went on the back of the tractors, they would then tip up, and you sort of push them into the stacks of flat 8 bales that had been left across the fields, and those are then loaded up and taken back to the yard, and then the stacks are unloaded in the yard. And some people would just leave them like that. Some people would unload them and then build them into a bigger stack once they got the small bales back to the yard. They never proved to be that popular because it's incredibly difficult to get those stacks of flat 8s to stand together in the field. That was always the major issue with it. It was difficult to get them to stand up correctly. Right, if I go forward a bit, oh, there we go, it does work. It's just that it's a little bit enthusiastic about hopping over. So we've got that one unloaded there, which means that we can go and get our auto load trailer. Did anybody in the past, or even now, has anybody ever seen one of those trailers being used where you have the flat 8s all stacked up one on top of the other? Has anybody ever seen those trailers being used? Personally, I never actually seen one being used for small bales. I've seen one parked up at a farm. I've actually seen 3 on 3 different farms parked up that used to be used, but I've never personally actually seen them being used. And the main reason that they're not used is exactly as I said. It's incredibly difficult to get the flat 8 stacked in the field, and more often than not, the stacks would eventually fall over before you could go and pick them up properly. And it was a lot of hassle. It ended up being more work than it saved. So ultimately, what you would do is you would have your flat 8s out in the field. You'd have a loader that had the flat 8 capacity, you know, with a flat 8 grab on it, and you take the loader, and either a telescopic handler is on or a loader tractor, whatever it might be, and you go out to the field. I should probably stay off the field. I stay on the roads until I need to go on the field to avoid compaction. You go into the field and you load with a tractor and trailer, and a tractor with or a telescopic handler with a flat 8 grab, and you pick up the flat 8 grab, you put it onto the trailer, and then you have 2 people working on the trailer who are just moving, basically picking up those 8 bales, and they're just stacking them in a more secure fashion across the... Right, we are already in the correct bales. Yeah, so that's basically how we tend to do it now. It's a lot easier, it's a lot quicker, it's a lot faster than messing around with stacking these flat 8s out in the field. And so I've spent quite a lot of time doing all of the jobs mentioned, apart from actually using the trailer. The trailer is one thing I've never actually been able to use. There's always been I've always felt that is a bit of a shame. It's something that I would like to see being used one day. So does anybody actually have any clue what I'm talking about? I'm very well aware that these were a little bit of a niche market. So there could be a lot of people that have got no clue what I'm talking about and thinking, Frith, you really are burbling on about nothing today. It makes no sense. I will try, like I said, in a future episode to do a stack of 14, how I used to do them in the field. However, I don't think there is any mod existing at the moment that will just go on and grab a stack of bales and then put them down onto the back of your vehicle. I don't think such a thing exists. If it did exist, it would be absolutely brilliantly cool, and I would love to try it, but I don't think it does, unfortunately. And as for the small bale, the stacks with the little trailers that go and pick them up or anything, does anybody use one? Has anybody used one in the past? Does anybody use them now? Is there any farmer out there watching this series, or anybody that knows of a local farmer that's near to you that currently uses that type of trailer? Not the ones that pick up the bales themselves. I know that there are several of those around being used, especially for people that produce small bales these days. They are quite popular. They go along and they pick up the bale themselves. They stack them exactly the same way as the Artisan stacker works, except that you just have more bales per layer rather than just 2 like the Artisan stacker does. So there are those around. There's quite a lot of those around, and they're quite popular amongst people who use small bales. But what I'm talking about is the ones that specifically designed for picking up multiple layers of flat 8 bales. So you have the flat 8s, you get the flat 8 grab, and you stack them, alternating the direction of the layers so that they interlock a bit, and then you have the trailer comes along and picks up all of the stacks. Is there anybody out there that uses those? That is one thing I would love to know about. I really, really would. It'd be absolutely awesome if you do use it. And if you do use it, if you have any pictures, send them to me via message on Facebook or post them on the Facebook page. I would dearly love to see one of those things in action. It would be absolutely fantastic. Right, so we go here, and then what we do is we actually load the bales on again. I always like to unload the bales like that so that they're unloaded, and then put the straps on so that we've actually got realistic straps. Because if I take those straps off and I load the bales on, if I put the straps on now, you can see the straps are on, but they're underneath the bales because the bales aren't actually entities in the game at the moment. The trailer has them, but it doesn't actually class them as game entities. So what we do now is we pull forward a little bit, and then we go B to select the side that we want to unload, which is going to be right there, and then we press Y to unload, like that. Now, we do have to actually do this a couple of times, so I'm going to have to just reload those bales, and then stop the loading process, and then do that same thing again, and drop them in there. So there is our load unloaded, and we'll go back to the field and we'll get some more, and we can do that same thing again. You know what? I think we're actually going to go out this way, because I think it may save us just the teeniest little bit of time. We do have to remember that this road out here is not going to be an option for us for very much longer, so we may as well use it while we can, because one of our next jobs is going to be ploughing up the road that we would be using out here. We'll just have this as a turnaround when we want to come and tip sugarcane or anything else here at this train sell point right here. But yeah, basically to get to the BGA or anything else, we're going to have to come along this road, and we won't be able to use the one that shortcuts through this field, because this is the one that we're ploughing up. This is what we're joining these two fields together. It's going to be gone. Now, I suppose that I could go along, as we're going to be using the ground response, not ground response, the ground modification mod. I may be able to do a road up around the top there to sort of join up some of that up there. That could actually work fairly well. I think that would be an idea that we could have a look at. We'll see about that a bit later on. First of all, we need to continue on with our work here. So I want to come up this way. We've got one stack of bales here in this field, which we'll go and grab now. And then once we've grabbed that lot, we can head back over to the big field over there, and we can get the rest of the bales over there. I think we're going to do one more full load and then one part load, and that will be everything completed. I think that's what we've got still to do. Now, our beans are growing quite nicely in there. We've got 2 growth stages. Actually, how have I got the how's the fertilizer coming on? We've got growth in here, soil composition. Right, we've got one lot of fertilizer on all of these. We need to get the sprayer out, and we need to get spraying these fields, because looking at the growth, they've still got another growth stage to go, but yeah, we do need to actually get the sprayer as a priority. That's going to have to be our very next job. You know what, I'm actually thinking that we should have that sprayer running while we're doing this, because otherwise we're not going to be able to get all of it done in time. That's actually quite a serious issue, isn't it? Let's just leave this here a moment, and let's go and grab this sprayer. Now, we've got fertilizer on board the sprayer, but we want to actually do spraying this time rather than fertilizing. So I'm going to have to come back up through here and get the spray on board, so that we can start setting this one up. And when we've got the 2 fields side by side, those 2 bean fields, which should mean that this sprayer will actually go right across the 2 of them. So if I just bring this one in here, it should load itself up. Yes, excellent. But yeah, these 2 here, it should just do those 2 straight, one after the other. If we start down this side, it'll actually, we'll start on that side of the field, and it'll work down through there, and then it will come over and it'll move back up through there. It should go right to the end at that point. And so long as the end, actually, even if it does go right to the very end of the boom, it should go round, and it will just work its way right across both those fields. It will treat those 2 fields as a single field, which is excellent. And then we can take it out, and we've only got like the smaller fields to do, which should be a lot quicker. But we do actually need to get a move on with this, or we're going to end up not being able to fertilize the field fully, because we've still got another growth stage to go, and we've got to get another layer of fertilizer on when we do that. I think we're going to be alright in the future for doing more fertilizer, or more fertilizer, and getting it all done properly, because we've got manure coming up from, and slurry available from the cows, so we'll be able to use that for future episodes. But at the moment, kind of the main issue is we don't have a lot of fertilizer, and we didn't pre-fertilize the ground either before we started cultivating. So we're kind of a little bit behind on the fertilizer, really. I think we should... I think that's bad planning on my part. I didn't plan that fully, so I think that there was definitely room for improvement. And I did say that I was going to go out on the other road and go out for this one. So I'll still run up the other end of the field. I should have gone out that other road over there, so that would have met up with the end of it. That's all right. I'm going to start unfolding this as we go along, so long as I don't actually rip the booms off on a passing tree. It's not really what you want to do. And now, I think these are 28-meter booms, and if I'm looking at this correctly, we're not going to miss any of the field. If we start from this end, it'll come back up round, and it will get a complete pass on the field. Well, almost a complete pass, anyway. I can move this over a little bit. Over there. How about that? That, I think, is pretty good. So if I just move back a little bit and press H... No! Oh dear, this is really bad. Oh no, hang on, no, I got to change it over. It's on solid fertilizer. You look there, you've actually got to physically select the one that you want. I'd better just lower that down a little bit. And then you've got to press Y and you've got to change it over. We're now on liquid fertilizer there. So now it should work. If I press H, yes, it is actually working. Right, so that was what I did wrong there, as I forgot to actually change it over. So you've got to select which one. Even though we unfolded it, it still won't like it if we've not got the right way. You know, we could unfold it. It's still, if it's on solid fertilizer, it's still going to try to do solid fertilizer before it'll let you do anything else. So that one can carry on there, and it can actually do the spraying, and that actually looks pretty cool. But we want to go over here, and we want to carry on with this. This is the important thing. We need to get this straw done. So something that we need to get finished. I said that I wanted to do this. I want to get this job done and finished today. It's a very important thing that we get done. Mainly because it's our first decent income. No, we did sell some sugarcane, didn't we? So it's not our first income, but it's among the first income. And because of the number of bales that we've got at the top of this field, we're going to be left with exactly 2 bales. If I go and get the other stack first, yeah, we're going to be left with 2 bales there. Those 2 right there. Because this stack over here will make the next load, which means that we've got this load here. There we go, that's a complete load. And then if I press Y and unload onto the trailer, you'll notice it will drop right down instantly. I'm going to sort of look at it from this way. I quite like the colours here. Now, that trailer is the standard auto-load trailer. It's just got a different colour on it. Part of the toll pack that comes with the Broad Acres 16 times map. And there is a link in the description if you want to get that particular version of this trailer. But yeah, if I press Y now and unload, you can see suddenly now the bales are entities in the game and they're sat on the trailer. Then I can put the straps on and hold them all in place, and we're away. And I really do like this color combination. I think this does actually look really good. I like that, and I like the agri wheels that we got on this truck as well. I think that also looks particularly good. I know that we've only got one wheelbase, one rear axle on that lorry, which is probably not enough. It would be better if we had 2, but it's working. Sometimes, well, a lot of lorries these days do have the twin axles on the back, but I think one is going to work. It just means it is generally speaking, it's a slightly smaller lorry. You tend to have lighter weights going on the single axle ones rather than anything heavy. If it gets too heavy, it can. I think one of them. I don't know a huge amount about HGVs. I've been involved with working with HGVs and with that's heavy. For those of you who are not in the UK, HGV stands for heavy goods vehicle. It's referring to any vehicle that's over 7.5 tons in weight. That's the cutoff point for an HGV. I think it says 7.5. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. For an HGV, if it's got a twin axle, it essentially it's not. It does allow you to carry, I think, a little bit more weight. I think you are limited on the amount of weight that you can put on a single axle lorry compared to a twin axle, because weight in the UK, I don't know about the rest of the world, but weight in the UK is per axle and not overall weight. Or per axle is one of them. There is an overall weight limit, but per axle also affects it as well. Although I'm not really sure how that comes into it, whether you're not allowed to go over a set weight or if it's a recommendation or what. I'm really not quite sure how it all works. It's a complicated business. Everything about driving an HGV on the road. The HGV itself is not that complicated. No, the complicated bit comes into all the rules and regulations that go in with it, and that's where you can really get hung up. So as I don't know very much about it, I'm going to stop talking about it, and we'll get this load unloaded. So I need to load it back up like that. You just see it just snap ever so slightly, and then we can go and we can press B and then Y to unload, and then I'm going to have to just redo this little bit again like I did last time. Move it over and sell. There we go. So this time I'm going to spin around the shed, and I'm going to go back out onto the road and see if that is a little. I think it might actually be a little bit quicker, to be honest. And we can go back up the road. We've got one load. We got one full load, and then we're going to be left with 4 bales in the field. The last 4 bales I'm not actually going to sell. I will bring those back, and we'll keep them in the yard. I'll actually take them first of all to the cattle, and we'll unload into the cattle, and just so that they've got a little bit of straw going into them. I think they could do with a couple of bales. We'll take a look in a minute and we'll see how much they need. I'm not entirely certain at the moment. So we come racing down through here. You probably wouldn't want to approach your hacienda going quite that speed, just in case something went horribly wrong when you went into there. That would be an absolute disaster. It would be horrible, wouldn't it? The risk of damaging that tree. That tree is absolutely gorgeous. I genuinely love that tree, and I would genuinely love to have a tree like that. I really would. Right, what I'm doing is I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab these 2 bales so that when we come back for the final trip, we don't have quite so far to go. It doesn't really make a great deal of difference whether you do it this time or next time. It's just, I've always found it to be marginally quicker. There we go. You didn't see the person on the telehandler, but he's that good that he managed to get those bales onto our trailer without us even having to stop moving. It's very impressive. Very, very skilled work from the telehandler driver there on that particular pass. Yeah, let's move on from that one. Yeah, it's always the way that I've done it. When I'm clearing fields with, anything like this, I've always done it that I go to the furthest bale away first. I've always done that. With anything kind of like that, I've always done the furthest one away, and I've picked that one up first, and then I've moved back towards the farm, picking and then doing the closest ones last. I know some people will always work in completely the opposite way to that, and they will always do the nearest ones first, and then sort of build up, working to further away. And I'm not actually sure why I do it like that. It just always seems like a better way to do it. And I don't really know. I guess it's because if you do the closest one first, you get like this real sort of burst of amount of work that you've done at the start of the day, and then it sort of tails off, and it feels, I don't know, as the day goes on, it takes longer and longer and longer to do each load, and so your overall productivity seems to drop as you go through the day. And I just from a personal point of view, that doesn't feel very good to me. It doesn't feel good that my overall productivity significantly drops as the day wears on. Whereas if I do it the other way round, it's completely the opposite is true. I start off reasonably well. I'm clearing the fields. It's not brilliant, but I'm still clearing stuff and I'm getting it off the fields. As the day goes on, because I'm actually getting closer and closer to the main yards, well, I can actually sell just like... You've got to be careful doing it like that with the straps on, because I didn't actually realise that they would take the bales like that. But you do have to be careful with the straps on, because it can really lag out your game if you're doing it with the straps on the bales. So just be very, very careful if you happen to be doing that one. So yeah, as the day goes on, your productivity gets better and better and better, and then by the end of the day, you're bringing bales in probably twice as fast as you were at the beginning of the day, and it just feels better. You finish the day on a high note rather than on a low note. And I know that, yes, there's no real difference. There isn't any real difference to doing it, but when you're spending literally weeks and weeks and weeks working every single day without let up, you never stop. You never have a holiday, not for weeks and weeks and weeks. You don't have a half day off here, a half day off there. You just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, the harvest work, you don't get a break. You get your breaks during the winter. That's how farming works. And winter and spring and early summer, when your break times are, because of how lambing and calving seasons work, and growth seasons and all the rest of it. So yeah. You do get some time off. It's just you don't get lots of time off, and you certainly don't get time off in the summer. So yeah, working those kinds of hours, you start to get worn out. You really do. It starts to really wear you down. And so all farmers that I know have got different ways of dealing with that long-term fatigue, and when it starts to set in. It will set in, and everybody has different ways of dealing with it. But I've always sort of found that finishing my days on a high note by doing exactly what I've described, that's always helped me. It's kind of the way that I've approached it, and it's always worked for me. But every farmer I know has got different ways of doing it. Now, if we just take a look in the cows, I thought that we could have done with some straw in there, but apparently not. Still not yet. We need some hay and some silage to go in. But at the moment, all the others are still full. I did start off with 150,000 of each of those, just to give us like a head start so we could work on some of the other stuff first. Apparently 150,000 was way more than we needed for most of the items. So yeah, we still don't have to worry about any bales for the cows just yet. We'll bring that in there. Stop loading those. I'll go and put these over in the field. So I think we've actually been quite successful. My timer is going off just as we are about to finish. We've done all of the straw, which means that next week we're in a position that we can start doing a little bit of ploughing. I think that the first thing that we want to be doing next week is getting started on joining these two fields here together. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get them joined together. We're going to plough up this road, join it all together, and sort of square it off. And I think that I will also go... I'm not going to do very much up there. I'll probably ignore that completely. I'll start it from sort of down here, but I'm going to go for a natural shaped field, which means I'm going to bring a curve out around here, and I'm going to include that. I'm not going to go right out to the road, because that means that we'll have to manually go around the edge of the field a couple of times whenever we start doing any work on it, and that I don't think we actually need. If we've got these curved edges on it, we'll probably have to do some work like that anyway. So I'd like some comments today about how you think that we should plough this field up. Just in the comment section, do you think I should go for a completely natural edge and follow the line of that road there, and then bring it in a little bit and sort of maybe curve it up a little bit more on there, and then follow the edge of this road all the way down here and around, sort of like that. So make this whole field a much more natural curve all the way around. It will mean when we come to work the field, we're going to have, it's going to require a little bit more input from us. We're going to have to manually go around the edge each time we start working that field, so that we can then just leave the hired help working like we do with the rest of it. However, if I literally do a straight line down there and a straight line across here and here and there, it'll be a lot easier, right? I can use the GPS mod and I can line it up and I can get dead straight lines on all of it, so we've still got a perfectly square field, and then it's going to be a lot easier. We're not going to have to nurse it through anything when we come to actually working on our field there. There'll be none of that required. We won't need to do it at all. All we need to do is just do the basically set the hired help going in one of the fields, and that'll be it. It can just carry on. It'll just be away and be gone. So yeah, I'd very much like to have your opinions on that one. Which one do you think I should go for? The natural shaped field, or the keep the square ones, which makes it a lot easier for the hired help to just be put going in the field, and we can forget about them. We don't have to nurse it around the fields. Get into the comment section and give me your thoughts on that one. And while we're talking about comment sections and thoughts and everything else, we've got our weekly question now. Our cows, they escaped last week, as you know by now, and they decimated one half of the sugarcane field, which was very unfortunate. There was nothing we could do about it. We managed to get them back in before they completely destroyed all of our crops. However, we'd lost half of our field of sugarcane. So what do you want me to do with the half of the sugarcane field that we've now had to cultivate up to get rid of all of that damaged crop before it started to get any disease into it and spread into the healthy half of the field? Do you want me to replant that half straight away, and so then let it catch up with the half that's still growing? Or do you want me to leave that until we have harvested that half of the field, and then deal with the field as a whole once again after the next sugarcane harvest? It's your vote, it's your game. Head into the comment section down below, let us know which one you want and why, and of course don't forget to actually cast your vote in the top right hand corner. And my guess up here was absolutely spot on. It has worked both the fields together, done the two as one. So in our next episode as well, we will be able to spray that field, and the little field over there that has now been finished planting, been planted with beans, and we get the whole lot done. These are growing at a fairly rapid rate, and we haven't gotten anything planted over here yet. I don't know what growing seasons are like in South America, where this is set. I don't know if you've got long growing seasons. I know that in some parts of the world, it makes very little difference when you plant things, and you can get 3 harvests in a year for some crops. Some crops you get like 3 harvests every 2 years. It makes no difference when you plant. You can have fields being harvested and fields being planted at all times of the year. It makes no difference at all. So I'm kind of thinking that for this map it would be cool if we could do it like that. So we're not sort of really regulated with a planting season and a harvesting season. We've kind of, it can be as and when we want to do it. But I don't know. If that is absolutely not what happens in most of South America, let me know in the comment section, and we will try to get all of our planting done as rapidly as we possibly can. What we might have to do is buy another seed drill so that we can speed this whole process up, because it is taking us a little while. But we'll let that start. Well, once the star gets to the other end, I think he's probably going to say stop, because he's only got that little strip. We might have to manually do that last little bit. But that one can carry on there. I've got this one here to go, and this one needs to come down to here, and it's going to start cultivating the last field over here. So we've done a huge amount of cultivating now. All of that is now done. Oh, we've got a little tiny strip down the side of field 5 there. We won't worry about that. And there's also some strips along the bottom there. We might have to just go back and tidy that up. Oh, we've also got field 1 to deal with. Anyway, that's all to come. If you enjoyed this episode, then please head down below and give us a like. And if you really enjoyed it, then please tell your friends all about me. Get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.